Hello and welcome to the Argo Comics YouTube channel. Uh, I am Dan Sen and I am the publisher and writer for Argo Comics. We have basically three titles. The Argo Comics Anthology, which was a 6-issue miniseries that wrapped up about a year ago. All the stories for that anthology were completed within that 6 issues. Um, we have Argo 5, which is our superhero team book, and we have Sorority of Power, which is what it sounds like, a sorority of superheroines. I thought I would take this opportunity within the YouTube channel to go over each issue and give you some of the background as to what the books are about, what the characters are about, and basically somewhat of a director's cut as to what has gone on in the production of each issue. I really do try to make every issue special and as good as it can be. My writing background started out basically in muscle magazines, actually. I had competed in drug-free bodybuilding and have a degree in exercise science. I had minored in art. And within that, I had had a background working in the health and fitness industry, and I had written articles for various muscle magazines, and always, from beyond when I can remember, had a love of comic books. All the companies, major companies, indie publishers. Uh, there's more comics than I should have within my house, many long boxes and such. So, being a writer and having a love of comics, I had decided to self-publish and bring to life some of the creations. Always in mind that I wanted to, again, not just replicate what I have liked. I don't try to have a character who's my version of someone else's character. I do not try to do stories that are just, okay, I want to tell my version of the same story that's been told. They always say that every story's been told already. I'm always striving to give something a little different within each issue. All right. So as we are starting with Argo 5, I'm going to start out with Argo 5 number 0, which is your introduction to the characters. It's not the first issue that was published. It was somewhat my attempt to revisit the beginning at a point where I had improved in having, some background in making comics because I work actually as the publisher. So in that respect, beyond just, trying to become a better writer or a better artist, which again, being the writer, the publisher, doing a lot of various jobs, I only drew the first issue, and then beyond that, decided that collaborating with artists was going to be the only way that I can try to produce comics in a steady fashion. And, I rotate different artists in and out, basically because, again, I want to give people a steady production of stories. I don't want anyone having one issue and then waiting 6 months to a year to get that next issue and forgetting what it was all about. So in that respect, it's really no different than most mainstream comics in the fact that most titles will have a run of a particular artist and then the artist moves on to another title. In that respect, I just don't have the artist doing subsequent issues one after the other. But again, the ones who produce in a timely fashion and, produce the artwork that, I hold in high regard, then they revisit for another issue. let's start out with the characters, which are all represented in this cover, and I'll go into the background of this cover in a minute. But we have, okay, Gladiatra, who is the team leader, Shazrath, who is her boyfriend, and he is the Maltese god of strength, the island of Malta being near Italy. Chain Reaction, he's Mexican American, and he has martial arts background, but he also has the ability to cause a chain reaction. Again, in striving for something that I hadn't really seen in comics. I know characters who ricochet things off each other, off other objects, but chain reaction will, let's say, kick over a garbage can that will roll into the street, that will cause a truck to swerve. The truck will hit a telephone pole. That pole will fall on a bad guy. Perhaps it hasn't been done much in comics because it is kind of a lengthy procedure for a artist to have to draw. But again, I just thought it was a nifty idea. Now, whether or not that is a psychic ability of his, a mystical ability of his, a purely working the angles type of ability, that still remains to be seen for those reading the title. We have Garcia, who is half genie and half human. So unlike genies in most fiction that could just, make things appear out of thin air, she kind of has to work with the material that is around her. And then we have Blue Dynamo, who is a sort of an everyman, and he is somewhat of a comic book, sci-fi, and gaming aficionado. And basically that is the 5 members of Argo 5. Now, getting into this cover, okay, this is like a 20-year story probably for this cover, because I had come across the work of Rick Mays back in, it was either Teen Titans or it might have been called New Titans by then, but I believe it was still Teen Titans. Rick Mays, his art blew me away. I would follow him for years. This was like pre-internet, so there was no way to just go to a website of his and contact him or anything. But I would follow his work. Kabuki, Mask of the No, published by David Mack. That was a great series he had done. He had worked on an Arsenal miniseries for DC. Wildstorm swimsuit issues. Video Game Magazine even did some swimsuit issues that luckily I found on the newsstand of a 7-Eleven with his art in it. Just an artist who he was part of Gaijin Studios, which produced a lot of great artists with Adam Hughes and Brian Steelfries. I believe Call Story the Inker was within that studio. Really just an amazing level of talent coming out of that studio. Rick Mays was within that. And again, for years and years and years, there was no way to contact him. I would actually see David Mack, who published the Kabuki series he had done, at conventions. I would say, is there any way to get Rick Mays at one of these conventions? Because I always wanted to try to get some art from him. As luck would have it, years later, I would find him on the web and arrange this cover as well as a few other covers, which we'll be talking about in future videos. But this was my initial cover from him. Somewhat of a dream come true. As I said, it was a lengthy procedure to get this cover. And Russ Campbell did the colors. An amazing job by him. So again, one of my favorite covers within the whole series. All right. Now, getting into the issue itself. Okay, I have to show you a splash page here. Art by Arley Tucker. Okay, an artist, again, who I came to know through the web. I had seen him posting amazing art. For months, I had commented about how great his art was. The opportunity came to do a story, and we teamed up on this. And I have to say, impressive all throughout. Trying to see if there's any particular... Well, I'll say this, that basically we're starting out with Chain Reaction in Brooklyn, which is where he comes from, staying there in front of a bodega and hanging out with his friends. We move into Gladiatra, who is on... This is pretty much the origin story of the team, so she is somewhat getting recruited by the team's financial backer, Denny Dennis. Denny Dennis is an independent billionaire. He kind of is putting the team together, putting together this space station for them to be headquartered out of. And he talks about how he met Gladiator's father, Megamax, in the Korean War. Megamax, at this point in the story, is missing. We move into Desdon, which is the home of the Maltese Pantheon. I have been a mythology buff for years and years, and the island of Malta, to my knowledge, did not have its own pantheon of gods, so in that respect, I had created my own. And there is Shazrath in somewhat more mythological attire, and his father, Ekros. I moved into Kathira, the half genie, with her aunt, who is a full genie, her aunt Nanciara. Okay, so we have Kathira, her aunt Nanciara, and pretty much she's talking about how she's going to be among these this mortal superhero team. Again, I'm not going to really spell out the story for you because I don't want to spoil anything. Just giving you the basics. And there we have Blue Dynamo. This is kind of him having a little adventure with his girlfriend. And kind of breaking up with her. So we have them all getting together in the team. And I'll leave it at that. We have a little backup feature. Okay, drawn by Alex Garcia. Alex Garcia has gone on to do complete issues. Really amazing work. I had met him. Oh, there's his art. I had met him through Pacesetter, which is a George Perez fan magazine. I think that influence is somewhat evident. George Perez being a longtime favorite of mine. So this is kind of gives you a quick background as to who the characters are. Okay, and this has been shown up on the web because, again, I just want to be able to encapsulate a little bit what who the characters are for people who are not familiar with them, because of course as independent superheroes, they're not well known as some of the larger properties from the mainstream. So it's important that people have some type of introductory story to allow them to figure out who's who. Um, in this respect, when we were saying that Blue Dynamo uh, is meeting up with this girl, he's going on a date from HeroDate.com, which is an online dating site for superheroes. So that's where he basically gets to explain who the team is. All right. Most of the Argo comics will have a pinup section in the back. Okay, I like to see different artistic interpretations of the characters. Um, as I go to conventions to promote Argo comics, I will come across some of my favorite artists, and if they're agreeable to having a piece published, I would perhaps get a commission, or sometimes arranging that through online means, um, or just artists who I become friends with online. Uh, such as this, the main pinup in the pinup section here of the whole team, Rob Banbury, who I had met. He's actually in England. I had met him online, loved his work, got this team picture from him. Okay, we got a Shazrath by Andy Smith, who he was always a creator who I really loved his work throughout the years. So I was able to actually meet him at a convention. Rob Liefeld, who is another top creator who I just loved his work throughout Youngblood, his own title, of course, and, X-Force, Deadpool, you name it. He's always been a favorite. Able to get that from him. Quite a while ago, I got a pinup by Damion Scott, who had done the Robin series at the time. So I got a chain reaction from him. Louis Small Jr., who I'm good friends with. He is best known perhaps for his work in Vampirella. Just an amazing artist. He had done that Cassira. Jamal Igle had done this Blue Dynamo. Whoops. He had done the Blue Dynamo. This was perhaps at, not even perhaps, this was at his first convention appearance. So this was a while back. This might even be his first con sketch that he had ever done. But I remember the convention. It was in New York. It was in Nassau, actually, I believe the Nassau Coliseum. And the Spawn Mobile was there. And again, I was looking through his stuff. Loved the stuff. He was an unknown at that point. But I said, you know what? If I can get this piece and I have plans to publish in the future, I always will make sure there's an agreement in place that I will be able to publish the piece. Only a couple times where I still had gotten the piece just for myself. There are a couple pieces that were not used for publication at the artist request. So, that's always agreeable if that's their preference. But, of course, I want to share the artwork with all the people buying the books. So much better if they'll say, yeah, you can publish it. Mike McKone, another top artist. I guess, it's just too many titles. Avengers Academy was a recent one that he was well known for. He had a run on Spider-Man. Avengers Big Town stood out as a great one from him. I mean, he has done most of the major characters at this point. So Mike McKone, really one of the top artists out there working today, did that Gladiator picture, and just couldn't be happier with it. let's see, we had, no, this one, I know Brad Green did that one, but Rich Miller, okay. Brad Green actually had done Argo 5 issue number 4, and he had actually done the cover of issue number 1. So he is really a phenomenal artist. Love his work. And Chain Reaction by Rich Miller. Now, Rich Miller, I had just met at a convention, and again was impressed by the work that he had out there. So, you know, occasionally, just from that type of meeting up and, you know, having my table situated somewhat near someone's, I'll get inspired to get some art from them. Occasionally, I'll even see like an online auction for a commission, which just happens to be, and again, you have to go back and forth as far as just being able to use it for publication. But Craig Bogart did this Blue Dynamo that I thought was really a great job. Kind of a little Kirby-esque. But again, a really nice piece. And, okay, this was a Cassira by Dave Hoover. Dave Hoover, unfortunately, had passed away. I had known him from conventions in Philadelphia. Great artist who I think his work speaks for itself. Again, you gain some friendships by doing a number of conventions. And, you know, like I said, he was a real pleasure to meet and talk to at the conventions. Well, then I just have an ad in the back for other issues of Argo comics that are available. And to Blam, which is the printer that I use, and I'm very happy with the books they turn out. We have a back cover here by Arley Tucker, a full team shot of Argo 5. And that's pretty much your Cliff Notes and Director's Cut for Argo 5 number 0. Again, usually at conventions or online, if someone's asking me where to start, it's more of just an origin story, so you're not really getting a big plot thing going on. You know, you are getting an introduction to the characters. You're going to meet the characters, understand who is who, pretty much what their powers are. Basically, all the books that I'm going to be reviewing, not so much reviewing, but introducing you to, are available at Indie Planet. I will have links in the notes as to where you could pick up each issue or the full line of Argo comics. And that's going to do it for issue 0. Okay, our next video will be Argo 5 number 1. I'll get into the whole meat and potatoes of that one. And thanks for watching.